Good afternoon from Tel Aviv. This afternoon, I want to speak to you about the very strange American foreign policy vis-a-vis the Middle East in these last couple of weeks and last couple of days. That strange policy is underscored by events in Turkey yesterday that received such minimal press coverage in the United States, I've been shocked. Yesterday, the Turkish government under Erdogan's judicial branch sentenced 300 military leaders, opposition leaders, and journalists to jail. 12 of them were sentenced to life imprisonment. We don't really know what the crime of any of these people were. They were claimed they were responsible for a plot to undermine the government and overthrow the government. It's not beyond the pale of thought that the military might have tried to overthrow the government. They've done it in the past. On the other hand, there was no overwhelming proof presented in this court case. As a result, the former chief of staff of Erdogan, 2 years ago he was the chief of staff, has now been sentenced to life in prison. And like I said, with 299 additional people. This is an example of Erdogan ensuring the fact that there is a one-party rule in Turkey. No one will dare oppose him if the opposition could end up in jail for life. And yet the American administration has been quite quiet on that. As a matter of fact, the President Obama, Erdogan is a great friend. The fact of the matter is, Erdogan is more than anything else becoming a dictator. Which brings us to Egypt. In Egypt, allies of Erdogan came to power. As opposed to Erdogan, who did it slowly, quietly over many years, first proclaiming he wasn't an Islamist, and then slowly winning the elections, the Islamists in Egypt decided to go for it right from the start. They didn't listen to their own instincts, which were to stay back and not run for the parliament, not run for the presidency, but they saw the opportunity and they seized it. Of course, their seizing it ended up being overkill for them, because the people were not ready for a Muslim dictatorship in Egypt, and the army wasn't ready to end up in the same way that the army in Turkey has ended up, under the thumb of a Muslim dictator. So the results were the second revolution that took place in the end of June. That revolution has been widely decried in the United States. And as a matter of fact, members of Congress keep on calling for ending aid to Egypt. Very strange situation. The liberals in Egypt, the ones who we should be mostly allied with, have been turned the most anti-American, not understanding how America could turn their backs on them and support the Muslim Brotherhood. And it's a problem that goes across parties. Whether Republican or Democrat, they both seem to be saying it's a terrible thing that's taken place. Senators Graham and McCain have called for an end of aid, and so has Senator Ron Paul. A recent post by an Egyptian liberal on Twitter basically said that McCain and Graham know as much about Egyptian politics as a leaky cup of coffee. The fact of the matter is, I don't begin to understand. The best thing that could happen to American interests and the best thing that could happen to the Middle East is for the rise of Islamicism in the Middle East to have been brought to a stop. And it was brought to a stop in Egypt. As one liberal tweeted a few weeks ago, the liberals in Egypt did more to push back Islamicism in one day than America has done in 10 years. Unfortunately, America is looking the other way and doesn't realize what's taken place. So we'll see what develops. Maybe the American foreign policy establishment will wake up. Maybe they'll give the proper aid to the current government. But right now they seem to be intent on trying to convince General Sisi, the chief of staff of the Egyptian army, to bring the Muslim Brotherhood back into power, to give them an entree back into power. The worst possible thing. We will watch carefully as the events unfold. I personally wish the best of the Egyptian liberals. It's the hope, what the Egyptian liberals represent, which is the hope for the future Middle East, not the Muslim Brotherhood. This is Mark Schulman reporting from Tel Aviv. Good afternoon.